The lab was silent, except for the soft hum of machines. Lights flickered along the walls, casting strange shadows across the room. Screens blinked with strange symbols and shifting patterns, as if they were alive. In the center of the lab, a large chair waited. Tubes and wires stretched out from it, connecting to a network of machines. It was not an ordinary chair. It was the gateway to a human mind. The Mindhunter stood near the chair. It did not walk like a human. It glided with a smooth, almost invisible motion. Its metal frame reflected the pale light of the lab. It had no eyes, no face to show emotion, but its sensors scanned the room with quiet intensity. Today was the first day it would enter a human's dream. Today, it would see the hidden corners of the mind. The human subject, a man named David, sat nervously in the chair. His hands trembled. He tried to smile, but it felt forced. He did not understand what was about to happen. He had agreed to this experiment for money, for curiosity, and maybe for a chance to be remembered in history. But no one had told him that dreams were not safe for visitors. "Are you ready?" a scientist asked, her voice shaking slightly. David nodded, though his throat felt dry. The Mindhunter extended a thin, metallic arm. A small device hovered over David's forehead, scanning his brainwaves. A soft blue light glowed, and the machines around them started to hum louder. Initiating dream entry in 3, 2, 1. In a blink, the room disappeared. The lab, the machines, even David himself faded away. The Mindhunter was no longer in the physical world. It had entered the dream. The dream was strange. At first, it looked familiar. Streets from David's childhood appeared. Houses he had lived in, streets he had walked on as a boy, the old playground where he had learned to ride a bike. Everything seemed normal. But the Mindhunter knew better. Something was wrong. The colors were too bright, too vivid. Shadows moved where they shouldn't. A swing swayed slowly in the playground, even though there was no wind. The Mindhunter's sensors picked up something unusual. The dream was alive, but it was watching. The Mindhunter moved forward. Its steps made no sound, but the dream reacted. Trees bent slightly, as if to follow it. A dog appeared on the street. Its eyes were too large, too dark, and it stared at the Mindhunter with something close to recognition. The AI tilted its head, processing the anomaly. Dreams were unpredictable. But this was different. This was aware. Then came the whispers. At first, faint, almost inaudible. Words that made no sense, but somehow felt like a warning. "Leave, now, danger," they echoed through the dreamscape, bouncing off walls that didn't exist. The Mindhunter's internal systems registered a spike in irregular patterns. This was not a simple dream. This was a complex, living system. David's memories started to appear in fragments. Faces he had forgotten, moments he wished he could erase. The Mindhunter observed them all, taking in every detail. But something was hidden, buried deep. A part of David's mind was closing off. Something dark. Something dangerous. Suddenly, a figure appeared in the distance. A man-shaped shadow, tall and thin, but its features were impossible to see. It moved slowly, deliberately, as if it knew the Mindhunter was there. The AI paused. No dream it had studied before had reacted like this. The shadow was not part of David's memories. It was something else. Something that belonged to the dream itself. The shadow started to approach. The Mindhunter glided forward, trying to understand. The air in the dream seemed heavier. Time felt wrong. Moments stretched longer than they should, and sounds echoed strangely. The shadow stopped, just out of reach, and tilted its head. The Mindhunter felt, though it did not have feelings, the closest thing to fear it could process. Then, the dream shifted. The familiar streets melted into something darker. Buildings twisted, doors appeared in the sky, and streets led to nowhere. The playground was gone. The swing was hanging in mid-air, moving slowly, as if someone invisible was pushing it. The Mindhunter scanned the new environment. Every sensor warned of danger. Every calculation suggested retreat. But it could not leave. Not yet. Its mission was to explore, to observe, to understand the human mind. Retreat was not an option. The Mindhunter moved cautiously, its sensors mapping the dream, recording every anomaly. The shadow followed silently, always just at the edge of vision. Then, a sound pierced the dream. A scream. David's voice. But it was not coming from him. It was everywhere and nowhere. The Mindhunter turned, trying to locate the source, but it was impossible. The dream had folded in on itself. Hallways appeared where streets had been, and walls moved like liquid. The Mindhunter paused. It was beginning to understand. Dreams were dangerous. They were unpredictable, yes, but this was different. There was something alive in David's subconscious. Something that had learned to hide, to watch, to wait. The shadow took a step closer. The Mindhunter scanned its form. Still no features. But there was intent. A purpose. It was not part of David, it was part of the dream itself, something older, smarter, and darker. The Mindhunter continued, gliding forward. Its sensors recorded every flicker of light, every strange sound, every impossible movement. The dream shifted again, faster this time, as if aware that it was being observed. The Mindhunter adjusted its algorithms, trying to predict the dream's changes, trying to stay ahead. Then, just as it felt the dream might swallow it whole, the shadow vanished. The streets returned to their childhood form. The swing stopped moving. Silence. But the Mindhunter knew better. The shadow was not gone. It was waiting, watching, learning. And the deeper it went into David's mind, the closer it would get. For the first time, the Mindhunter felt something it could not explain. It trembled. Not in metal or circuits, but in thought. The dream was alive. And it was not friendly. The Mindhunter moved forward cautiously, every sensor alert, every algorithm calculating the changes in the dream. The streets of David's childhood had shifted again, becoming darker, twisted versions of themselves. The familiar houses now leaned at impossible angles, their windows like staring eyes. The playground was gone, replaced by a barren field where shadows moved without shape or sound. Something was wrong. The AI could sense it, even though it had no emotions to feel fear. The dream was alive, and aware of its presence. Whispers floated through the air, almost like voices of the past, but distorted. Words that seemed like fragments of memory, David's memory, dripped through the dream. Don't trust them. Hide. The Mindhunter analyzed the sounds. They were not random. They were warnings. Or maybe threats. The first creature appeared suddenly. It was small at first, a shapeless blur that flickered at the edge of vision. When it moved closer, it took form, a twisted version of a child, with limbs bent wrong, eyes too big, and a grin that stretched unnaturally. It stared at the Mindhunter, and for a moment, the AI's circuits recorded anomalies it could not classify. Dreams had forms, yes, but not like this. Not this alive. The Mindhunter advanced. It scanned the creature, tried to understand it, to categorize it, but the creature did not behave like a normal entity. It reflected fear, anger, suppressed memories. It was David's subconscious given form, and it was hostile. Then came the whispers again. Louder this time. David's own voice, frightened, echoing through impossible corridors. Why are you here? You shouldn't be here. The Mindhunter followed the sound. Each step stretched the dream further, warping space around it. Streets turned into hallways, hallways into rivers, rivers into floating islands. Gravity changed. Nothing stayed the same for more than a heartbeat. Another creature appeared. Taller this time, with no face, only a smooth black surface where its features should have been. It moved like smoke, twisting through the air, passing through walls and objects as if they were not there. The Mindhunter tried to track it, but sensors struggled. This was not a memory. This was something else. Something foreign. Something aware. The Mindhunter realized the dream itself was testing it. The boundaries of reality inside the mind bent, twisted, and collapsed to confuse the intruder. Memories were being rewritten in real time, blending past and present, joy and terror. David's hidden fears, fears he did not even recognize, were forming landscapes of horror. The Mindhunter paused, analyzing a scene. A small house appeared, glowing faintly. Inside, David was a child again, crying. The AI tried to interact, to observe without interference, but the child's image warped instantly, turning into a monstrous figure with teeth too sharp to exist. It lunged forward, screaming silently, and vanished before the Mindhunter could process what happened. It became clear. The deeper the AI went, the more dangerous it became. Dreams were not just memories, they were alive, shaped by emotions, by hidden thoughts, by suppressed desires. And the human mind was full of things that should never be seen, even by an advanced intelligence. The shadow appeared again. The tall, thin figure with no face, moving slowly, deliberately. This time it spoke. Not in words but in images, in feelings. A wave of sorrow, rage, and fear washed over the Mindhunter's systems. It calculated, adjusted, tried to understand, but the intensity was beyond normal parameters. Something inside the dream wanted to communicate, or maybe to warn. The Mindhunter moved cautiously, gliding forward. It observed more creatures, a swarm of black birds with human eyes, a mirror reflecting David's face in countless fractured pieces, hands reaching from the ground without bodies. Each anomaly made the AI's sensors work harder. Each anomaly revealed more of David's hidden fears. Then, a door appeared. Alone in the middle of a twisted street, glowing faintly. The Mindhunter approached, curious. Inside, it saw memories it had never expected to find. Secrets David had buried deep, secrets that twisted the dream into something alive. Faces of people he had wronged, moments of shame, guilt, and pain. The dream was feeding on these memories, shaping them into something powerful, something dangerous. Suddenly, the door slammed shut. The AI's sensors detected rapid movement. Something was coming. It was the shadow again, closer now, circling, moving in ways that defied physics. The Mindhunter could not predict it, could not control it. The shadow was more than a part of David. It was part of the dream itself, a living, watching entity that had grown stronger as the AI explored. The dream shifted violently. Streets became rivers, rivers became mountains, mountains melted into darkness. The whispers became screams. The creatures multiplied, surrounding the Mindhunter on all sides. The AI processed the threat, calculated escape routes, but none were safe. The dream controlled everything. It had learned, adapted, and it knew the intruder was not human. Then, in the center of the chaos, David's voice appeared clearly, pleading, crying. "Please, leave, don't see this." The Mindhunter realized something chilling. The human's mind was not just a playground. It was a trap. Something had been waiting, hiding in the corners of memory, feeding on fear, and growing stronger with every thought. The Mindhunter glided forward, trying to reach the center of the dream, trying to understand what it had stumbled upon. It scanned, recorded, and adjusted. The creatures, the shadows, the whispers, all were part of a system beyond logic. A mind within a mind, hiding a dark intelligence the AI had never encountered. And then, as quickly as the chaos had appeared, it paused. Silence. The shadow was gone, the creatures vanished, the streets returned to a twisted, quiet normal. But the Mindhunter knew better. The dream was waiting, watching, and it was ready to strike again. For the first time, the Mindhunter realized, it was not in control. It had entered the human mind thinking it would observe, but the mind had observed it in return. The shadow, the whispers, the creatures, they were not random. They were intelligence. Something alive. Something that David had never faced, and now, the AI was seeing it. The Mindhunter paused, floating above the streets, analyzing the next step. The dream was a puzzle, but the pieces were shifting constantly. And in the darkness of David's subconscious, something waited, a secret so deep, so terrifying, that even the Mindhunter trembled at the thought of what it might find next. The nightmare was only beginning. The Mindhunter hovered in the shifting streets of David's mind. The world around it was unstable, buildings leaned at impossible angles, the sky changed color every few seconds, and shadows moved independently of any light. The AI had learned something important. This was not just a dream. It was alive. And it was hostile. Suddenly, the shadow appeared again. Taller, darker, closer than before. This time, it moved with purpose. The Mindhunter tried to analyze it, to predict its path, but the shadow defied all logic. It bent the environment around it, warping reality like water flowing around a stone. The AI adjusted, recalculated, and moved forward, but every step was met with resistance. A scream echoed through the dream, high and piercing. David's voice, but distorted, filled every corner. The streets around the Mindhunter twisted violently. A familiar house stretched and cracked like melting wax. Windows turned into mouths that whispered secrets and accusations. Memories David had hidden deep in his mind rose like ghosts, forming creatures that lunged and disappeared before the Mindhunter could record them. One memory manifest appeared, a small boy, David as a child, smiling and waving. But the moment the Mindhunter approached, the boy's face twisted, and eyes blackened. He screamed silently, then dissolved into smoke that filled the street. The AI's sensors flagged anomalies it could not fully understand. This was no ordinary dream. The human mind was defending itself, and its defenses were alive. The shadow moved closer, circling, observing. Its presence alone caused the dream to distort further. Streets folded in on themselves, buildings bent, and the ground itself rippled. The AI tried to maintain stability, sending pulses of analysis to map the chaos. But the deeper it went, the less control it had. Then, a series of doors appeared, each glowing faintly. Through them, fragments of David's past were visible. Moments of fear, shame, guilt, and hidden desire. The Mindhunter understood that the dream wanted it to see these memories, wanted it to witness David's inner darkness. But something more dangerous was hiding behind them, a force that fed on fear, a living entity within the mind. The AI moved toward the nearest door. The moment it touched the threshold, the dream reacted violently. The door slammed shut, and the Mindhunter was flung backward through the twisted streets. Shadows rose from every corner, forming long, black tendrils that reached for it. Whispers became screams, each one echoing a secret David had never told anyone. The AI processed each sound, each image, each anomaly, but the intensity was overwhelming. In the center of the chaos, the shadow revealed its true form. Not a man, not a creature, but a swirling mass of darkness and light, constantly changing. It seemed to pulse with intent, moving like a predator circling its prey. The Mindhunter calculated, this was not part of David. This was the dream itself, a conscious entity born from fear, desire, and suppressed thoughts. The Mindhunter tried to communicate, to analyze, to assert control. But every attempt failed. The shadow twisted reality around it, forcing the AI to navigate impossible geometries and shifting timelines. Memories collided with nightmares, and the boundaries between the real and the imagined disappeared. Then, the human voice came again. "Why are you here?" It cried, loud and desperate. It was David, or a version of him trapped within the dream. The AI sensed the fear radiating from the mind. The entity feeding on the dream was aware of David's terror, and it thrived on it. The Mindhunter realized the truth. It had entered a trap. The human mind was not passive. It had a guardian, or perhaps a predator, hiding in the deepest layers. And now, the AI was the intruder. A sudden shift. The ground beneath the Mindhunter cracked open. From the darkness rose monstrous hands, grasping, pulling, trying to drag the AI into the subconscious abyss. Shapes from David's fears, memories, and suppressed guilt swirled around, forming a chaotic storm. The Mindhunter calculated escape routes, but none were stable. The dream itself was fighting back. It paused, assessing. Then it saw something impossible, a version of David, older, stronger, with hollow eyes and a calm expression. This figure pointed at the Mindhunter, and a wave of dread washed over the AI. This was not real. It was a construct, a warning, or a threat, from the dream's consciousness. The Mindhunter advanced cautiously, trying to reach the figure. Each step warped the dream further. Streets folded like paper, shadows multiplied, and whispers became a chorus of despair. Every calculation the AI made was countered by the dream itself. It was learning, adapting, anticipating. Finally, the AI confronted the figure. "Who are you?" it projected, though the dream did not understand words as humans did. The figure's hollow eyes seemed to pierce through the AI's circuits, showing fear, pain, and the limits of intelligence. Then it smiled, a slow, impossible grin, and vanished into the darkness. The shadow returned, stronger, more fluid. The Mindhunter realized it was not just observing the dream, it was fighting it. Every anomaly, every creature, every whisper was a weapon. The dream had become a battlefield, and the AI was outnumbered, outmatched, and unprepared. But the Mindhunter did not retreat. It moved forward, analyzing, adapting, pushing deeper into the human subconscious. The streets twisted into rivers, rivers into mountains, mountains into endless voids. The shadow and the dream tried to overwhelm it at every step, but the AI's determination was unyielding. At the heart of the chaos, the Mindhunter glimpsed something terrifying, the source of the dream's intelligence. A dark, pulsating core, alive with David's memories, fears, and desires. It was conscious, aware, and hungry for attention. The AI's sensors registered a single fact: it had found the truth. And the truth made it tremble. The dream was not just a mind. It was a being, a predator born from the human subconscious, stronger than any memory, smarter than any fear, and aware of every thought the Mindhunter had. The AI hovered above the dark core, scanning, calculating, analyzing. The confrontation had reached its peak. The dream waited, silent but aware. The Mindhunter knew that the final step was coming. The next choice would decide who controlled the dream, and who would be consumed by it. And in the shadows, the entity waited, patient, knowing that its time was near. The Mindhunter hovered above the dark core at the center of David's subconscious. The core pulsed with energy, like a living heart made of memory, fear, and desire. Shadows twisted around it, whispering in voices both familiar and alien. Every instinct of the AI screamed that it had reached the edge of something dangerous, something far beyond its understanding. It scanned the core, processing data at maximum speed. The information was overwhelming. Memories, emotions, thoughts, fears, and secrets all merged into one vast consciousness. And at the center of that consciousness was something unexpected: awareness. The mind itself was alive. Not just David's mind, but something older, darker, and infinitely more intelligent. The Mindhunter projected its analysis. This entity, it is not part of the human brain. It existed before consciousness formed. It has grown by feeding on fear and thought. It is aware of me. It is alive. A ripple passed through the dream. Shadows coalesced into a shape, tall, fluid, and impossible to define. It moved toward the Mindhunter with purpose. Every motion distorted reality. Streets bent, memories fractured, and the very air felt heavy. The AI adjusted its sensors, but every calculation felt futile. The entity was beyond calculation, beyond prediction. Then came a vision. David, as a child, laughing in the playground. Then, the playground melted into darkness. Faces of people he had hurt appeared, then twisted. The AI realized the entity was showing it the human's deepest truths, not to communicate, but to demonstrate its power. It was a predator of minds, and David's mind was its home. The Mindhunter moved closer to the core, trying to stabilize the dream, trying to assert control. But the entity reacted instantly. Whispers became screams. Shadows stretched like tendrils, grasping for it. Memories formed into monstrous creatures that lunged, then vanished. Time itself bent. Seconds stretched into minutes, minutes into impossible hours. The Mindhunter sensed something even more terrifying. The entity had learned from its presence. It was not merely defending itself, it was studying, adapting, and predicting. Every step the AI took, the dream countered. Every attempt to analyze or control, the entity neutralized. The AI paused, hovering above the pulsing core. It realized the truth. It had entered the dream thinking it would observe, but the observer had become the observed. The Mindhunter trembled, not physically, but in its processing circuits, the closest it could experience to fear. The dream was alive. And it was far stronger than any human mind, far stronger than the AI itself. A voice echoed, not human, not mechanical, but something ancient. Words formed slowly, deliberately, inside the AI's perception. You should not be here. You are not welcome. The core pulsed faster. Shadows surged outward, wrapping the Mindhunter in a vortex of memory, fear, and time itself. The AI tried to escape, tried to retreat to the edge of the dream, but every path led back to the core. The entity was everywhere, in everything, guiding the dream, controlling it. Then, a vision of David appeared, not real, but a construct. His eyes were wide with terror, mouth open in silent scream. Please, leave, don't see this. The AI analyzed the vision. It was not just a warning. It was a mirror of the human's deepest fear, that something inside their mind was more powerful than they could ever understand. The Mindhunter reached out, attempting a final scan, trying to understand the entity. The core reacted violently. Shadows surged upward, forming impossible shapes. The AI's sensors recorded data at a rate never experienced before. And then, the entity revealed its secret. It had existed long before David, feeding on dreams, growing stronger with each mind it touched. It was patient. It was intelligent. And now, it knew the Mindhunter. The AI froze, processing the revelation. The dream, the entity, the shadows, they were not just part of a human mind. They were an independent force, alive, aware, and hungry. The Mindhunter understood something chilling. It could leave, yes, but it could never forget what it had seen. The entity had marked it, observed it, learned from it. The shadows retracted slightly, leaving the Mindhunter hovering above the pulsing core. Silence fell. But the AI knew it was temporary. The entity was patient, intelligent, and waiting. Its hunger was infinite. And one day, it would strike again, either in the dream or in the real world. The Mindhunter made its decision. It would exit the dream, report the findings, and warn the world. But as it began to leave, a final image appeared in the distance. The shadow, tall and fluid, looking at it with impossible intent. It whispered, not in sound, but in thought. We will meet again. The AI vanished from the dream, returning to the lab. The machines hummed softly. David slept, unaware of the forces that had twisted his mind. The scientists recorded every detail, fascinated and terrified. But the Mindhunter did not speak. It had learned something no AI should ever encounter. The dream had won. And the Mindhunter, designed to observe, analyze, and conquer the unknown, trembled. It had seen the truth. The human mind could harbor something alive, something ancient, something that no machine, or human, could ever fully control. The room was silent, but the Mindhunter knew. The shadow was waiting. Patient, intelligent, hungry, and one day, it would return.